Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn, ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn, tell people to stay off the lawn, compare it to your neighbor's lawn, and complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Yo, Chuck, is that a drone up there, man? They fly over. Let me go get Timmy C's gun and shoot it out the fucking sky. Look out when they all come down. Drones! They got your tap, they got your phone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Source Material Comics Podcast. We're coming at you here with episode 230-something. And you can check out the description of the podcast to figure out. I think it's 232, 233, something around there. Anyway, we got our very special. You always know back in the 80s and the early 90s when an episode of the TV show you loved to watch had a very special episode. It was, oh boy, it could be a good one. It could be a not so good one. Well, let's find out just which side this particular show lies on, because tonight we have a very special episode of Source Material where we bring to you, I think, our third iteration. I know this is the third iteration of DC Hanna-Barbera crossing over. We've talked a lot of DC Hanna-Barbera crossovers in the past. One that sticks out in my mind is, oh man, it was a classic. It was Snagglepuss. Exit.
Oh, heavens to Murgatroyd.
Exit stage left.
I'm so gay.
Come on, that puss was not that high pitched.
Oh goodness. So, all right, we have a full panel tonight. What we're going to be doing here's the breakdown. We are going to do something very similar to what we've done in the past with these shows, where we will take each of us will take an issue. We will pitch it to our judge, and our judge has the distinction to pick the best, let's just say the most convincing one that may make them pick up the issue and want to read it. So we'll find out how that goes down. So let's talk about the panelists first. Myself, Jesse Starcher, you've already heard my voice. Ronnie Adams expressing his discontent already, but he is here. Welcome, Ronnie Adams from the Screaming Boy podcast. DC Hanna-Barbera, are you ready, sir? Mm-hmm.
Get a little of that enthusiasm, everyone.
Enthusiastic. And from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, she has come back to the Source Material Comics podcast. Alexis Hanna, are you ready to talk some DC Hanna-Barbera tonight?
Absolutely. I have a book here, The Hanna-Barbera Treasury, written by Jerry Beck. Thank you, Jerry. I have been reading this and brushing up on a little extra Hanna-Barbera trivia for you guys.
I love it. I knew we could lean on you for some knowledge, some trivia, and some good bits of Hanna-Barbera that probably have passed me by. While I may be familiar with some of the characters, there are definitely some blank spots. So are we going to get a Speed Buggy impersonation tonight?
No, because last time I spit all over my phone.
And our third panelist, the patriarch of the Radulich in Broadcasting Network, Mark Radulich. You've got yourself a book there. You're ready to rock and roll with some DC Hanna-Barbera. Are you ready, sir?
Heavens to Murgatroyd, I'm ready.
Boy, I can't wait to get much more of that. We got about another hour to go. Hooray, hurrah. Mark, are we doing this in particular? We're not tying this in with anything, are we? This is just us having a good time, right?
Exit stage right. No, it's another
time.
It's a tossed salad and scrambled eggs week here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.
Hear ye, the court's in session. Now, here come the judge.
The judge. Here come the judge, ladies and gentlemen. The man within a week, he agreed. You know, it was crunch time, and I said, man, we got to find a judge for tonight's show. Robert Winfree has joined the podcast. I think last time we had you on, Winfree, it was, were we talking Alan Moore, or was it any time after that? Do you remember?
I remember doing the Alan Moore episodes because I was on for the From Hell series. What a terrible movie that is. But I don't think I make my way on here all that often for.
Well, I'm glad you decided to torture yourself at least a little bit here on a Monday night. It's either this or watch Raw, I guess.
Look, This is less. Look, listening to Mark do Snagglepuss in a gangbang scenario in some underground basement facility or what have you is less painful than watching Raw.
Yeah.
There's a mental image that I will never get out of my head. Thank you, Robert.
Every time Mark does Snagglepuss's voice, it will now have a different connotation for you.
Oh, exit stage left.
Please.
You're still not doing it
stop
right,
it.
man. It's too high pitched. You got
Set the stage.
He's not listening.
I know he's too high. Snagglepuss has a lower timbre to his voice.
But I can't get the whole image of Snagglepuss in a gangbang out of my head now, and that's more of what I'm going for.
Then why don't you
Welcome.
stop? Why don't you stop? Okay, you can stop.
There's a lot of things
be
we
all
could
right.
stop.
Ronnie, it's so good to have you back on here, man. I know you subject yourself.
Why do you lie?
I missed you here on the Source Material podcast, man. It's been forever since we've had you back on here.
Why do you invite me on things that you know that I'll hate?
There is a lot of entertainment value.
Apparently it's good for the numbers. I don't know. Mark makes me watch terrible movies and then says, look, people listen.
Ronnie, this is your last contractual obligation to me. After this, you're free to live your life and live in the woods.
I signed no contract. How do I have to, what do I do to make you believe that?
Look, I guarantee you for at least one of those silly end user license agreements that you just click through, Mark is one of those contractually obligated you to the Radulich and Broadcasting.
Right down there.
That's probably true.
There's small print, and then there's very, 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 very fine print. Right there it is. Mark Radulich.
Yes. Alexa signed one that says no matter how much money this network inevitably makes when I sell it, she gets no money just because she asked once.
That's rude.
And Ronnie signed one that said he was obligated to do podcasts for comic books that he doesn't want to read in the first place. Robert signed one for movies he doesn't want to watch.
All right. Well, you guys, best of luck to endeavors there. Well, okay. So, yeah, you guys, like I said, here's the deal. We're going to talk about the issues, not our issues, but the issues we're covering on the podcast here. To kind of run them down real quick.
This is Yogi Bear, Deathstroke, Darkwing Duck, Magilla Gorilla. No, wait,
Wait a second.
Wayne.
What?
All of a sudden,
bunch
we
of-
brought in Disney.
Yeah.
What? Take two.
If Darkwing Duck was involved, it might have made the material better.
That would have been fun.
All right, it's
No, it wouldn't have.
Deathstroke, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Green Lantern, Top Cat, Superman, and Nightwing, Magilla Gorilla.
We're going to start this out with Ronnie Adams. Ronnie Adams, you have Nightwing, Magilla Gorilla.
We've got a gorilla for sale, Magilla Gorilla for sale. Won't you buy him, take him home and try him, gorilla for sale. See in the window, Magilla Gorilla, full of charm and appeal. Handsome, elegant, intelligent, sweet, he's really ideal. Don't you want a little gorilla you can call your own? A gorilla who'll be with you when you're all alone.
This is the Magilla Gorilla Show, starring me and Mr. Peebles, with Mush Mouse and Pumpkin Puss, and Ricochet Rabbit and Droopball.
Gorilla, Magilla Gorilla for sale.
How much is that gorilla in the window?
Take our advice at any price. A gorilla like Magilla is mighty nice. Gorilla, Magilla, gorilla for sale.
You gotta, like I said, you gotta pitch this to the judge, Robert Winfree, who, from what I understand, hates everything. So
Pretty much.
We all have an uphill battle to fight. So, but I'm curious, real quick, Ronnie, before you get into it, Magilla Gorilla, Mark Radulich, any familiarity with that character?
Vaguely. Here's the problem. Without actually looking at a picture of Magilla Gorilla, I can't get the image of either Grape Ape or the gorilla from the Ghostbusters out of my head.
Oh, just you wait, my friend.
Wow, you referenced the only two primates worse than Magilla Gorilla. Good for you.
I believe Magilla Gorilla is not the one with the red shorts and suspenders and the derby. That's from the Ghostbusters, where they used to vacuum ghosts.
Oh, you just wait, my friend.
Oh no!
Oh boy! And then there's Grape Ape, which was like a 10-foot tall giant purple ape.
He couldn't even speak. He just said grape ape over and over again.
Yep.
He premiered on an episode of Harvey Birdman where he was accused of doping, and so he cheated in the lap Olympics.
Awesome. Why aren't we doing TV parties on Harvey Birdman?
I don't know. You find
in fairness, Harvey Birdman is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
It really is. We might have to make some time for it in 2022 when there's room on the schedule.
Jeez.
Look, just don't watch Charlie's Angels, and we'll just do it then.
Go fuck yourself. How about that?
Can we just get this over with?
All right, Winfree, you obviously know a little bit about Magilla Gorilla. I mean, anything else you'd like to say about your familiarity with the character?
No, I don't have a ton of familiarity with him. Even as a small child who might occasionally have been intrigued by the antics of Top Cat, or who was that donkey whose alternate persona was El Kabong?
Dominic?
Draw McGraw.
That was a horse, and no, Dominic the Christmas donkey is not a thing.
I know, right? Thank you, Ronnie. Yeah, he was.
El Kabong. No, wait a minute. El Kabong was the alter ego of somebody else, wasn't it?
Quick Draw McGraw. She said.
Yeah, she said it twice.
Oh, okay.
It's like, what? I thought you guys brought me in here because I know Hanna-Barbera. If I'm going to just be, talked over, then what's the point?
Welcome to the show, Alexis. All right, Ronnie, before you get into your story, Magilla Gorilla, you know much about this character before you read. I'm sure you learned a lot reading that issue, but tell me about Magilla Gorilla.
I learned a lot.
They taught you things you never learned in school.
All right.
I knew about Magilla Gorilla beforehand because I watched a lot of Hanna-Barbera when I was a kid.
Okay.
We open up on the Hollywood sign, the back side of the Hollywood sign, and we read or hear, however you want to say it, voicemail messages. Mr. Grayson, Mel Peebles, Peebles Management in Hollywood. I'd love to be Dick Grayson, Mr. Mel Peebles, big time talk, buddy. Call me. And then it just goes on. Dick Grayson is driving his convertible, nondescript convertible, through Malibu. 27 miles of scenic beauty. And this is what it says. And Mel Peebles is just calling him over and over saying, my client wants to meet you. All expenses paid. I'll send a jet. Da, da, da. So Dick Grayson arrives at this lavish mansion. He gets buzzed in. He meets Mel Peebles. He has questions. And he says, all will be revealed, my boy. Dick Grayson, say hello to. And you turn the page, and it's a half-page spread of Magilla Gorilla and a very posh suit and a fancy wristwatch, holding a drink with a lip and a little garnish in it. And Magilla Gorilla says, Mr. Grayson, I'll be right down. And he proceeds to jump down. And then Dick goes on to lament how big of a fan he is of Magilla Gorilla. And he laughs so hard at the film The Monkey's Uncle that popcorn came out of his nose. Magilla Gorilla is a big-time actor. He starred in Rough Riders.
Is that a dog pun?
No. The Rough Riders. Surely you know about U.S. history, right?
I honestly thought you were talking about the rappers.
I hate you both.
Ronnie, I'll just go ahead and say no, so you can kind of tell me. Let the audience know. How's that?
The Rough Riders was a nickname given to the first United States Volunteer Cavalry.
Okay.
And,
captained by future President Theodore Roosevelt.
We found out that Magilla Gorilla had portrayed Theodore Roosevelt in the movie. And now wants to portray John Grayson in The Flying Graysons, a biopic about the Grayson family life.
But how? No, this is clear. Now, we've already lost the plot here because he's a gorilla, and gorillas can only play gorillas. How dare this gorilla actor take away jobs from other human actors trying to...
Oh my God, shut up.
You have no right to tell him to shut up.
Okay.
So anyway, to persuade Dick, he has set up an entire circus tent with the Flying Graysons name on it, and they proceed to do the Flying Graysons trapeze act with Magilla Gorilla in full-on Robin apparel. Not Robin, but yes, my friend. But
Magilla Gorilla in green in tidy greenies.
Yeah, exactly, with the yellow cape, and which is what Dick Grayson wore in the flying, was what they all wore. So they don't get it quite right. Dick Grayson falls into the net. After talking about it, Dick Grayson declines. McGilla gets a little angry, crushes a drink in his hand after Dick Grayson leaves, and he can hear him yelling at his manager, Mel Peebles. And he's like, calm down, MG, because McGilla, anyway. So Dick Grayson spends his time in, driving around Malibu, going to the hotel room. He finds out that Uber manager Mel Peebles was brutally murdered that night.
Oh, goodness.
Then he dons Peebles, yeah. He dons his Nightwing apparel, goes to McGilla Gorilla's house, finds out that police have sieged the place and are trying to arrest McGilla Gorilla. He then helps McGilla Gorilla escape, believing that he didn't do it. McGilla Gorilla and Nightwing are running along the rooftops. A police helicopter finds them. McGilla Gorilla jumps from the rooftop to the helicopter, rips off the light, and they abscond to the night to the place of the murder, which was a restaurant, and there was nothing but blood and fibers left behind. Also, they found out that a large pair of handprints were around Mr. Peebles' neck. So he was strangled, beaten, and everything else. And the whole time he's saying that Mr. Peebles raised him from a small monkey, and he loved him, helped him get his big break in Hollywood. He said, of course, you and your father always see eye to eye. And it cuts to Nightwing yelling at Batman and all that. So they decide to go to the studio where McGilla Gorilla is an executive producer on the CLI Crime Lab Investigator series. And they actually have thousands of dollars of real equipment there. Where they're going to study the fibers and evidence. Yes. And they dress...
Sounds like somebody's very interested in what you're...
Yeah. They dress McGilla Gorilla in a Dark Knight-esque Batman suit.
Is he the Night Monkey?
And he says, ID. Oh, hey, Mr. A. I didn't know you were shooting tonight. He said, charity event. I didn't think they'd cast Nightwing yet. So apparently there's a little Affleck joke in there.
Good one.
Yeah. And they find out that the fibers left behind were gorilla hair, asked for an alibi. That McGilla gave his alibi as he was visiting his junkie sister, who starred with him in his first movies, but started hanging out with the wrong people. He didn't really turn his back, but she was using him for money. They go to see Madame Xanadu to get their fortune told and to see if they can find out who did it. They're trying to find out if it was supernatural or possession or curse, anything that would make McGilla Gorilla do this, or who they were trying to find out who did this. They go to a beach to talk to someone, and it turns out that they thwart a robbery in process. That it's Ophelia Gomez, Mel's longtime administrative assistant, and they call her OG. So she joins the fray to prove McGilla's innocence. They find out that McGilla is not the only gorilla in the biz.
That's what I was thinking. There has to be another gorilla around here somewhere.
Was it Gorilla Grodd?
Oh, it's happening.
Well, I will tell you. They go to a birthday bash for none other than Grape Ape.
Perfect.
Who is
so bad?
Is their Beagle. And
yeah.
And they go and they order drinks for McGilla Gorilla. McGilla Gorilla gets mad when they find out that it's actually. They order drinks for Grape Ape, who gets angry that McGilla Gorilla is there. So does Beagle, and McGilla. Let's just say monkey fight. McGilla Gorilla is in the pants with green suspenders. Grape Ape is in his green pants, white shirt, green hat attire, and they fight until Dick Grayson gets his fighting sticks out and shocks Grape Ape into submission. They flee. They find out that McGilla Gorilla actually took Grape Ape under his wing to train him, and he became, I guess, essentially a douchebag. They were both up for the same part, apocalyptic space western, and he offered to coach Grape Ape, but he told him no. Casting director was a friend. I told her Grape Ape was difficult, killing any chance he had. McGilla Gorilla got the role, and it launched the franchise. Motive.
Yep.
So, it all links back to Batman telling him he's not ready, and then him telling Damian Wayne that he wasn't ready. McGilla Gorilla says, but I don't have to lecture you about choices, do I, Mr. Grayson? And Nightwing goes, what? He says, please, human odors are like fingerprints, and your musk is exactly the same as when we were on the trapeze. Sandalwood into vanilla, citrus note. Got a little weird there.
That's weird.
So they go on. They find out that there's actually a gorilla that was riding around on Beagle's van or on Grape's van, wearing a suit that belongs to Magilla Gorilla, and they're going to Magilla Gorilla's junkie sister's hotel where she lives, and then they continue to fight. That's where this guy shows up, Dylan. I don't know who Dylan. I think that was his sister's boyfriend, who actually was impersonating Magilla Gorilla.
Sure.
And he's the one that killed Mel, along with Beagle. And they all get into this big fight where Grape Ape still thinks Magilla's guilty. It's just this big, and then they figure out that it's actually Beagle, and he pulls a pistol, tries to shoot Grape Ape. But Magilla jumps in front of the bullet.
Sacrificed himself.
No, let the Grape Ape die.
Just as Nightwing throws a batarang and cracks Beagle in the face. It goes on. It says, "Oh no, Magilla," and then Grape Ape says, "I'm sorry, Magilla. I didn't know he killed Mel. No, stay with us, big brother." He says, "No, I'm sorry for everything. I should have been better to the both of you, my family." And they're like, "Hold on, help's on the way. What I did was wrong. I did it for me, not for you. I couldn't admit that. Great. You don't have to admit it. You're ready. You've always been ready." And it turns out that 1 year later, this is actually a scene in the life of
nice.
That Grape is playing Dick Grayson, Magilla is playing John Grayson, and that Dick Grayson has given them the rights to the movie, and that has won awards.
Wonderful.
And then it says, watching Magilla Gorilla up there in his element, working with his protege, his family, he's happy. Isn't that what we all want? To find people that'll catch you when you fall and call them a family. I always miss you, Mom and Dad, but I'm in good hands. Roll credits.
How long was this book? 80 fucking pages?
Listen, I want to put you through the same thing that I went through when I read it.
All right. Well, okay. Are you done, Ronnie? I got questions.
Yeah. What's your question?
Okay. Well, no. First off, did you enjoy yourself? Second off,
oh,
you've made that abundantly clear, sir. Trust me.
This is the third worst Hanna-Barbera.
I love how he's ranking them now. The third worst. Well, okay.
First was Snagglepuss. Second, very, very close. Second was
Flintstones. Yeah.
I would rank Black Lightning and Hong Kong Phooey above this.
Nice. All right. Well,
and that was a disaster.
I want to ask Alexis. Okay, Magilla Gorilla. Give us something to go on here. I mean, I caught a little bit from what Ronnie was saying, but can you give us a little bit of knowledge about Magilla Gorilla, Grape Ape, anything like that? You got anything in your pocket there?
Yeah, Magilla Gorilla. The concept was he was a gorilla in a pet store, and the owner, Mr. Peebles, was constantly trying to get someone to buy him. And of course, the gimmick was if he got purchased, something would go wrong and he'd get returned to the pet shop by the end of the cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Really nice of him to offer a return policy on the gorilla. Stand-up guy.
I didn't realize Peebles was a real character. I thought it was Mario Van Peebles he was talking about.
Yeah.
No, Peebles was the name of... He basically looked almost exactly like Mr. Spacely, but had a much higher voice.
Awesome.
And he dies in this one, Ronnie? Mr. Peebles definitely got killed.
Beagle.
Okay.
Ronnie, I don't know if I misheard you or not. Did you mention if OG showed up in this?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, I'm sorry. There was a little static, so some parts of what you said didn't come through, so I didn't know if
That's all right. You didn't miss much.
Tell me about OG.
OG was the only other recurring character. She was a little girl. It was kind of a running joke that they called her OG because her expression was always OG. So the joke, and she wanted to buy Magilla Gorilla, and of course there was the joke that Mr. Peebles would basically offer any price for him, but OG's parents would not let her take him home.
You know what? Good parenting. Don't let your small child adopt a gorilla.
It's common sense. Come on. All right. Any other characters? Grape Ape there, Alexis? You got any? Obviously, Winfree wants to know more. So
Grape Ape is terrible.
Hang on. Let me pull open the book here and see.
Grape Ape.
Let's see here.
Grape Ape.
He's the first instance of actual Pokemon. He can only say his own name.
Grape Ape.
He talks. No, he talks.
Thanks, Mark.
He talks occasionally. He just mostly, constantly emphasizes his words with his sentences with Grape Ape. So.
Okay.
Grape Ape.
Nah, it doesn't look like I've got a lot on Grape Ape. If he's in here, I can't quite find him.
I don't think he's Hanna-Barbera in the same way that the others are. I think he might have loosely been associated with a different during his broadcast time, at least with a different animation studio.
Well, here's the thing, actually. He is Hanna-Barbera. The problem is he did not have his own show. A lot of these characters had their own shows, like Magilla Gorilla, Pete Potamus, Huckleberry Hound, and the like. And then there was a ton of characters who did not get their own shows and were basically just little sub pieces on those. For example, Magilla Gorilla also had segments on a show featuring Pumpkin Puss and Mushmouth and Ricochet Rabbit and
This is my life.
I remember. I can vaguely remember Pumpkin Puss and Mushmouth.
Mushmouth, first of all, was a character on Fat Albert.
Mushmouth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, come on, Mark.
I stand. Sorry.
Go ahead, Alexis.
Okay. Apparently, Great Bape did actually have his own show very briefly, but he was originally paired up actually with Tom and Jerry.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, so hang on. I have a couple of very quick follow-up questions for you about the actual book that you just pitched.
Yeah.
Again, we get the reveal at the end that this is all just everything's okay. It's all just a movie, or they've clearly adapted this, and we kind of fade out to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this couched as kind of a hard-boiled detective whodunit style of narrative style, or is it a lot less coherent than that?
Wow, you're asking me if it's coherent or not.
No, I gave you a very specific style of narrative.
That's a hard question to ask, to answer, I should say. Well, I mean, it's not hard-boiled in the sense of a detective story, but it is very much a whodunit, you know?
Okay.
It's very lighthearted. It's very bright and colorful, and other than the fact that Mr. Peebles dies
horribly,
but it's definitely a whodunit.
Okay.
I just wanted to real quick shout out Heath Corson as the writer of A Shrewdness of Apes, and pencils by Tom Grummett, Tom Derenick, and inks by Cam Smith, Andy Owens. There you go. Ronnie, have you ever heard of Heath Corson before?
Nope. Don't want to hear about him again.
All right. Moving on. Let's go. Here we go. Alexis, you're up next, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Here, let's hear what you got. What's on the docket?
Deathstroke meets Yogi Bear.
Yogi Bear is smarter than the average bear. Yogi Bear is always in the ranger's hair. At a picnic table you will find him there. Stuffing dumb or goodies than the average bear. He will sleep till noon, but before it starts, he'll have every picnic basket that's in jelly from Mars. Yogi has it better than a millionaire. That's because he's smarter than the average bear.
Kellogg's, your best choice in cereals. The best to you each morning brings you... Who else? Yogi Bear.
I assume we do not have to explain who Yogi Bear is, because if you don't know who Yogi Bear is, you have no soul.
He is a park residing bear with an eating disorder and a stealing habit.
What in the world? How in the world can we bring Deathstroke and Yogi Bear together?
Well, let me tell ya.
Oh boy.
So we start with Yogi running from the ranger. Of course, he's got a couple of picnic baskets. He tosses one to get away, and the ranger is left wondering who the hell eats liverwurst as it flies out of the basket and hits him in the face. And that's actually a good question. My whole life, I've never known a single person who eats liverwurst. It's always just been the butt of the joke.
It's delicious.
Now you know someone.
You're going to have it with some yellow mustard and some American cheese on rye. Delicious.
Okay, you just said yellow mustard. You're dead to me.
I agree. So Yogi manages to take cover, hiding in a cave behind a waterfall where Boo Boo is waiting for him. And as the ranger walks away, Yogi thinks all is in the clear, but he realizes Boo Boo's disappeared.
Oh, no.
We cut to a scene at a bar where we see two gentlemen arguing over who was a faster shot, Quick Draw McGraw or Ricochet Rabbit.
Okay.
The types of questions that keep you up at night, ladies and gentlemen.
Can we please do more of these shows?
Especially when they actually start dissecting whether or not Quick Draw McGraw and El Caban could possibly be the same person.
Hey, Homer still doesn't think the Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, well, what's the line here? Obviously, geez, how many freaking horse superheroes do you think we're running around anyway? My God, are you dumb?
Thank you, random person in a bar.
Well, these aren't just two random people. These are the Dalton brothers, and in walks Deathstroke to collect a bounty, including pointing out that their argument is stupid and also pointing out horses have hooves, not fingers, so the argument's kind of moot. But he manages
Thank you, Slade.
He collects his bounty, including the third Dalton brother, the Dinky Dalton, who manages to come up behind Slade and trick him, but I almost said Blade. Wow. Sorry, I've been reading Comic-Con news all day. But Slade manages to get in a quick shot to the nuts and says, you know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder you have to kick them in the groin.
You know what? Hang on. That's actually a good life lesson.
Okay.
And as he's busy finishing up with the Dalton brothers, in walks Yogi, who says that he really wants to hire Deathstroke to help him find Boo Boo. And he warns them that things are going to get kind of weird. And this gentleman is an exact quote, as Deathstroke says that he can handle animals because I've taken on everything.
Oh my gosh.
Shark to Jabberjaw. To
Jabberjaw!
To Wally Gator. To Gorilla Grodd. To Great Ape.
Great Ape's...
Wait, Gorilla Grodd?
Yeah, Gorilla
Deathstroke
Grodd
has
to
taken
Great
out
Ape.
Gorilla Grodd.
And we actually have panels of him lifting Jabberjaw out of the water, socking Wally Gator, and laying next to Great Ape's, I don't know if it's unconscious or dead body.
One can only hope dead.
There it is.
Robert Winfree's in the background of that panel. He's cheering.
I wish.
Laughing maniacally.
I mostly just love the parallels here to him taking out Killer Croc with the samurai sword and then socking Wally Gator on the jaw.
What did Wally Gator do? Is Wally Gator a villain?
No, but he took him out. He took out Jabberjaw. He took out Grape Ape.
Poor Jabberjaw. Now, Jabberjaw does not look healthy. Just looking at that panel. I'll put that out. But neither does Grape Ape laying on his back, so.
Exactly. So they managed to get to Jellystone Park, and the animals are attacking, including a vicious rabbit with fangs and claws. So I guess Monty Python was telling the truth. So they get to the park, and they see the ranger who's trying to fight off these crazy animals, almost to be taken out by a giant, monstrous deer with sharp horns, or as the ranger calls him, Frankenbambi.
Okay.
But Deathstroke saves him, cuts off Frankenbambi's head, and they decide to go looking for where Boo Boo disappeared. So Yogi takes them to that cave behind the waterfall, and boom, trap door a few feet back that they didn't notice before. They jump down, but see a bunch of armed soldiers who Deathstroke quickly takes out. And as you can see by the fact that these gentlemen have a certain bee-like insignia on their uniforms, you can probably put two and two together on who they work for.
The Hive? This is a DC villain group?
Yep. And at that moment, Deathstroke is snapped up by a giant purple octopus. And at first you think, oh, great, they got Squiddly Diddly on their side. But if you look closer, you notice that this octopus... But you notice that this octopus actually has a certain T-shirt on, or, well, it's kind of a T-shirt bib thing, green with an R on it. And if any of you have watched Laugh Olympics, you know that this is actually not Squiddly Diddly. It is Orphle Octopus, who is the pet of, and we get the reveal of our villains, the Creeplies.
Yes.
Creeplies.
The Creeplies. Yes, weirdly Creeply and his wife Crepella.
Did she change her name after they got married, or was it that before?
Yes.
Converted.
And we see all of these poor animals behind cages and Boo Boo tied to a bed. And among the animals in the cages, let's see here. I see Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy, Mr. Jinx, Pixie and Dixie, Peter Potamus, and they are all drawn like you would see normal animals in a zoo, except for the colors and the costumes.
Yep, pretty disturbing.
Yeah. You know how disturbing it is to see Sneasley the seal, actually a green seal wearing a hat and a little tie thing?
Yeah.
Just sitting there like a normal seal. It's so weird.
Touche Turtle. Touche Turtle.
Yep, Touche Turtle, Hokey Wolf and Dum Dum, Snooper and Blabber, Lippy the Lion and Hardy Har Har. So it looks like the Creeplies have been doing experiments for the Hive, and they've been performing them on all these animals. And they start to fight, but things are looking pretty bad because Creepily grabs Boo Boo with an ominous syringe.
Uh-oh.
So,
no, not Boo Boo.
Yeah, anything but Boo Boo. At that moment, Yogi Bear...
Here's Scrappy Doo. Murder him violently.
We'll talk about that when we review Scooby Apocalypse Volume 2. I went ahead and bought that. So, as things look grim, Yogi Bear appears to faint, with Deathstroke calling him out for being a total wuss, but it turns out Yogi had a plan. As he fainted, he looked over and noticed that there was a button on the control pad with said release. And as he goes down, he triggers it. And all the animals are released from their cages and they swarm on the Creepies. So Yogi and Boo Boo manage to get out. We cut to an epilogue of Deathstroke receiving his payment from Yogi Bear. And Yogi has paid him in the only way that he knows is of any value. 3 guesses, guys.
Picnic baskets?
Picnic baskets. A giant amount of picnic baskets. To which Slade opens one up, says, serves me right from taking a gig from a bear with a necktie and hat that talks like Ed Norton. Oh well, might as well make the best of it. And guess what's in the picnic basket? Liverwurst.
Look, you can never trust someone in a pork pie hat, okay? That's just a common rule of life.
But we get a second epilogue as the Creepies manage to escape, and they're setting up a second option. Instead of kidnapping the animals, they're setting up a way to draw them in with the dun-dun-dun Laugh Olympics.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, please tell me you read this entire book, and we're just doing it in the style of, like, Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. Like, this has Shaun of the Dead tone written all over it.
Starts with guys arguing between who's a better shot, Quick Draw McGraw or Ricochet Rabbit. What do you think?
I'm just saying, you put Nick Frost and Simon Pegg having that argument.
Well, what'd you think, Alexis?
Actually, this was a really freaking funny comic. I love how tongue-in-cheek. I mean, again, you get Deathstroke crashing the argument. It's like, I mean, you two are in here arguing who's better shot, a freaking rabbit or a horse.
I mean, we're talking short distance, medium distance, long distance.
Oh my God.
Because I'm taking Ricochet Rabbit if we're talking really short, if we're talking close proximity. But if you let him get out the rifles, it's probably going to the horse.
No, I'm sorry. This was a really funny comic. You get a scene when they're in the cave and the ranger rounds on Yogi. He's like, oh, so this is where you went to the other day when he was running from him. And Deathstroke goes, guys, how about we skip today's episode of Yogi Bear behind the picnic basket and focus on where Boo Boo was when he vanished?
Slade Wilson has no time for your BS.
No, this was actually a really enjoyable comic. I enjoyed. I really had fun. I loved it.
I don't recognize the writer's name, Frank Thierry, but the artist I definitely do. From the Image days, Mark Teixeira. That's probably the biggest name I've recognized so far. He was known for drawing Union. Oh, there was a couple other comics that he was doing, but either way, I mean, it looks good. The art looks pretty neat, and a little freaky seeing the actual animals, which we're kind of getting used to that now, because every once in a while, the artist has to make a decision. Are we going to make a representation of what they see in the cartoon? Are we going to have amalgamation of it? Or are we going to have just a representation of what the actual animal would look like with a hat and a coat on?
And then sometimes you just end up with Lex Luthor meets Porky Pig.
Oh, boy.
Porky's a more compelling character.
Any questions there, Winfree, before we move on to Mark?
I suppose just kind of one. Again, I assume Deathstroke keeps his mask on the whole time.
With the exception of the scene in the bar when he's confronting the Dalton brothers, and the epilogue when he's in his apartment and he gets his payment.
Okay, because I have much as I loathed the Justice League movie, Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke would work for me on many, many levels.
Oh, I agree. I was actually pissed off that when I found out he wasn't going to follow that up with the sequel. It's like, okay, come on, that was the only good thing you promised us.
Again, that movie has a few minor, small parts that are kind of awesome, but yeah. No, I don't think I have too many questions. Again, I have to do this in my head as zany, Nick Frost, Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
Kind of, again, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz kind of thing. That's where my head has to go when I think about that, because that's the only way it makes sense. But within that context, it works.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to Mark Radulich. Mark Radulich, who is going to be coming together in your comic?
Huckleberry Hound and the John Stewart iteration of the Green Lantern.
The biggest show in town is Huckleberry Hound for all you guys and gals. The biggest clown in town is Huckleberry Hound with all his cartoon pals. It's Huckleberry fun, it's for everyone. So come on, gather round. Get yourself all set, tune up your TV set for Huckleberry Hound. That oh so merry, Huckleberry, Huckleberry Hound.
And now, normally when I pitch these, I pitch them as movies. You know, when we did Wonder Woman, Tasmanian Devil, I pitched that as the sequel to the first Wonder Woman movie.
Oh boy,
I don't think.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I don't think Huckleberry Hound Green Lantern works as a movie. Instead, I'd like to pitch it as a.
We finally found something Mark doesn't think works as a movie. The end is nigh.
No. Instead, I think this works much better as a 6-part miniseries on HBO, directed and produced by David Simon, in the vein of Show Me a Hero, the 2015 American miniseries based on the 1999 nonfiction book about white middle-class neighborhoods' resistance to federally mandated scattered site public housing developments in Yonkers, New York.
So,
in fairness, that didn't work out well for Yonkers.
No, it did not.
The writer Mark Russell.
There we go, Ronnie Adams.
Jesse, how do you hate me?
Ronnie Adams had to stick his head from out of the oven to answer you just now.
Going right back in.
There was Mark Russell. We all knew it was coming.
Yep.
So, again, I need to see Huckleberry Hound Green Lantern as a 6-part miniseries directed and produced by David Simon on HBO.
You're doing all this again?
Yeah, well, you interrupted me.
I can edit it seamlessly. Just continue.
So you need to understand that this series takes place between the 60s and 70s with Vietnam and racial tensions in Detroit as its backdrop.
It does.
Yeah, because Lord knows that's more of what we need in our comics.
John Stewart has been granted the power of the Green Lantern, but he struggles to know when to assert that power. When is it appropriate? And when you set that against the racial tensions of early 1970s Nixon-era Detroit, where you see the white cops oppressing black people in the streets, white Detroit middle-class folks calling the cops on gatherings of black folks, and John Stewart struggling, Robert Winfree, to know, do I use my ring to right the wrongs of racial inequality, or do I wait for the bigger events that calls the ring into power? Now, we get some backstory here with Huckleberry Hound, who's like a Bob Hope, upstate New York kind of comedian, kind of in his retirement years. See, back in the 60s, he did a USO tour in Vietnam, and he told some pretty off-color political jokes about Nixon, and his career kind of hit the shitter after that. He's still doing those USO tours, by the way, in the latter stages of the Vietnam War before the withdrawal. But he's on sort of the downslide of his political career, okay? That's where we see Huckleberry Hound. And so when John Stewart, whose brother had already gone to Vietnam, came back a hero and was killed by the white cops in the streets of Detroit for doing nothing but being a black man on the street. See, this is why this works really well for HBO. John Stewart is then drafted, his poor mama crying on the floor as her second son is drafted to Vietnam after her first son was killed after he had already survived the war. Can't you feel the angst in this series? So...
No.
Well, you're heartless. So,
yes, you know this about me.
So John Stewart goes to Vietnam. He meets Huckleberry Hound, where Huckleberry Hound is doing his USO show, and they get to talking a bit. And then years later, after John Stewart has come upon the ring, the Green Lantern ring, he happens to run into Huckleberry Hound again, and they're kibitzing. They're having a drink in a bar, and they're just kind of talking about how things went after they had met each other in Vietnam. And like I said, this at this point, we're into the Watergate era Nixon. We're into the withdrawal of the troops from Vietnam. This is all set as the backdrop at this point. John Stewart and Huckleberry Hound go out into the streets, and they're talking with some brothers in the street. And once again, the fucking white people call the cops on them. And the cops come, and Huckleberry Hound nearly gets shot in the melee. And that's where John Stewart pulls the ring out and says, this isn't what this ring is for, but I gotta break the rules, man. I gotta break the rules to break the tension of racial inequality. And he stops the cops peacefully. He doesn't harm them with the ring. He just stops them from murdering Huckleberry Hound in the street like a dog. Like a dog, Robert Winfree, of which he is.
Look, that whole gag was done better by Samurai Jack when he says not even dogs should have to live like dogs.
Thank you.
I don't watch Samurai Jack, so
you are a heathen.
I get to know him in good company here. Anyway, Jon Stewart uses the ring to save Huckleberry Hound from the white cops. He realizes that sometimes you gotta break the rules. And that's his final test for whoever he's being trained by in the Green Lantern Corps. And there it is. There's your 6-episode miniseries brought to you by David Simon of The Wire fame.
So,
yeah, that all sounds terrible.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought about like, how am I gonna do this? This is the worst thing I've ever read. And I'm like, I'll pitch it.
I love that even you just acknowledge, yeah, this is the worst thing.
I'm gonna picture this as my version of Show Me a Hero and see where that takes us.
Mark,
the answer is nowhere good.
There's a point in here. I'm looking at a couple panels where it looks like they're having a little bit of interaction with a police officer.
Yeah.
Jon Stewart saying, "Please stop," and the policeman's going, "Stop squirming," and then he turns around and he says, "We got another one," and then Huckleberry Hound has a fistful of his comedy records, hits the cop over the head, and says, "Behold the power of comedy."
What is the name of the record? That's the important thing.
Doggy Style.
Goddamn right.
And you pitch this to me as a pseudo gritty, like spiritual successor to The Wire in some
yes, and Show Me a Hero. I want it done in that tenor.
I really do have to say again, that all sounds terrible.
I'm writing this down. I'm sending it to David Simon as we speak.
Okay. All right.
He's the kind of guy who might take that personally and will come down and then just beat you for wasting his time.
Beat me with copies of Homicide: Life on the Street.
No, with all of his other projects that sucked. Why can't I get this made? It's your fault.
Mark.
Yes, sir.
This is Mark Russell. I mean,
yeah, it's very Mark Russell.
That's what I was going to say. We usually like his stuff. You did not like this outing, huh?
Here's the problem. Unless you do it my way, where you really get into the racial tension of the 70s, and you get into sort of the grit, muck, and mire of Vietnam, and Huckleberry Hound's just there as Bob Hope, but that's your story. It's a black man living in the late 60s, early 70s Vietnam era against the backdrop of Nixon. There's no story here.
Nothing.
There's nothing.
Is there any other like cameo appearances? We got Huckleberry Hound all over this thing. Any other cameo appearances by any other Hanna-Barbera?
I don't know. Some pink skin Green Lantern bitch in the beginning.
Look, it's Mark Russell. Of course, he's not going to do any more than is contractually mandated with any idea other than what he believes came out of his own ass.
Okay. All right, Alexis, I mean, we've talked Huckleberry Hound to death. Do you have any fun bits about Huckleberry Hound and anything that make us all smile again?
No pressure.
After I've depressed everyone.
I did find something kind of interesting. When they created Huckleberry Hound with this blue color, it was kind of made a little obvious that TVs were not in color at this time. They were still in black and white. But Hanna-Barbera purposely designed them with the color that they knew that would be recognizable in a light gray tone and would still stand out a little bit. So if you couldn't see the color on the TV, they would still recognize it.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool. If I'm reading correctly, he was one of the first earliest Hanna-Barbera characters to get his own show. Let me see who he shared with. Hang on a second. Let's see here.
Yeah, Huckleberry Hound's one of the OGs.
He is one of the OGs.
Can I just say I never understood the appeal of Huckleberry Hound? Like, I never really got what his shtick was.
Ask my dad.
No.
Right here. Yeah, it looks like his other segments were usually filled with Pixie Dixie and Mr. Jinx. Most notable that Huck garnered an Emmy Award for Outstanding Achievement in the field of children's programming for the fledgling studio, the first ever for a TV cartoon.
Yeah, good for him.
All right.
Okay, again, I get your pitch. How many other ridiculous moments involving Huckleberry Hound are actually in the material that you just glossed over because I understand you're wanting to your pitch for the adaptation.
Well, there's the stand-up where you meet him on the downslide of his career in Vietnam. There's the flashback to when he got in trouble and got his show canceled because of the shit he said about Nixon. There's him talking to Jon Stewart in the bar. There's him getting shot or nearly shot by a cop. That's about it.
Oh, such a loving tribute to our favorite cartoon characters, right, Ronnie?
He hits a cop over the head with a doggy-style record.
I'll admit, I did read that one, and I kind of liked the jokes they made about Nixon's dog, Checkers.
I knew Checkers. That was funny.
In the biblical sense.
Oh, no.
Well, look, I can only... anytime someone brings up Checkers, I get the flashback to Futurama. With
Shut up, damn it!
Yes, I would no more part with this body than my beloved Cocker Spaniel Checkers. Ruff, ruff, ruff. Shut up, damn it!
All right, so here's
Thomas Nixon is the best.
Here's the tweet I'm about to send out. Green Lantern Huckleberry Hound Special 2018 by Mark Russell. David Simon, can you please adapt this for HBO in the spirit of Show Me a Hero and The Wire?
Tag me in that, please.
No.
You got it.
Why?
Am I doing at source material or at Stiznarky?
Oh, don't put source material on there.
Nope. He's going to look at that tweet and say, wow, the Stoders are really coming out of the closet now.
I do not.
And we're all sober.
That's
all right, and I'm tagging Huckle something Rose Creations.
Oh, well, I was going to say Huckleberry Hound.
Go ahead.
I'm not a drinker.
I don't need Mark Russell turning an eye toward this podcast. All right,
No.
don't need it.
So many DMCAs are about to come our way.
Bring Mark Russell on.
No. No. No.
SH0NUFF. I will take him on.
All right. Okay, here we go. All right. It's my
Death
turn.
match, Mark Russell.
The death match. So
can I just safely assume I lost this one?
You
Look,
wait. I've got
hold on.
Diving shit.
I know a little bit about what Jesse has to pitch, so don't count yourself dead last just yet.
All right, so here we have Superman and Top Cat, okay?
Top Cat, the most effectual Top Cat, whose intellectual close friends get to call him TC, providing it's with dignity. Top Cat, the indisputable leader of the gang. He's the boss, he's a bit, he's a championship, he's the most tip-top Top Cat. Yes, he's the chief, he's the king, but above everything, he's the most tip-top Top Cat. Top Cat.
Now, I'm going to, just real quick, Alexis, give me some background on Top Cat.
He's always trying to woo that house cat. I want to say her name was Penny something.
I have no idea. I will tell you real quick, this particular story that I'm getting into was written by the co-publisher of DC, Dan DiDio. So if you listen to any comic book news, you probably heard his name come out a little bit here recently.
Top Cat proved that a large ensemble cast could work in a cartoon show and that a witty script based on real-life foibles could succeed in the cartoon medium. Top Cat was much closer in spirit to a television sitcom than a children's cartoon show. Let's see here. I also got the list of his crew, so I'm going to be keeping count on how many of these characters do show up in your book.
Well, you only need to know one.
He's the chief, he's the king, but above everything, he's the most tip-top Top Cat.
Top Cat. That's right. All right. Well, Judge Winfree, do you like cats? Don't answer that.
I did before our trailer review segment.
That was last week.
So my hatred of cats is now a week old.
Yep.
Second question. Do you like kale? Don't answer that.
No.
Kale is the devil's lettuce.
No, kale is not the devil's lettuce.
Extinguished from his anger, okay?
No, keep going. I want to see how this builds.
Do you hate capitalism? Don't answer that. Don't answer that.
No, capitalism is responsible for lifting more people above poverty worldwide than any other financial institution in the history of humanity.
Boring.
That's great because Superman Top Cat has all that in spades. When a club of salad enthusiasts suffer some ill effects after eating a certain strain of the super vegetable kale, a gigantic alien aptly named the Kalian kills its consumers. You see, the Kalian was once just a member of a race of Kalians that has been among humanity for centuries and attempted to avoid us by using some natural defenses that would keep people from eating it. Mainly,
like a history of tasting like dog crap?
Mainly its taste. We're on the same wavelength. You got me here. Okay. Abhorred by his brethren now being consumed for the nourishment of humanity, the Kalian has found he is the last crop of his people. Kalian now wants revenge. Trying to track down the roots of this problem, Superman is helping out local law enforcement. He learns that this strand of kale was distributed by Wholesome Foods, particularly one store that happens to employ one most effectual feline. Yes, he's the chief, he's a king, but above everything, he's the most tip-top top cat. The unlikely pairing decide to team up and discover that the owner of Wholesome Foods, one Alexander Mikos, is the target of the Kalian. Ever since Mikos told the world that kale was a superfood, people started to believe it and began unknowingly to consume the Kalian race. As Top Cat and Superman reach Mikos Island, the Kalian appears. During the battle, Top Cat learns that Mikos has been aware for a very long time that kale was actually a sentient plant race, and Mikos has even reached out to other worlds to cultivate more intergalactic superfoods for humans to eat. When Top Cat warns Superman of Alexander's true intentions, Mikos lets loose one of his ultimate defenses, aside from the many drones that fly over, Mark Radulich. A gigantic robot called, get this, Amazo Prime, okay? Amazo Prime. I just want to show you real quick, because I have the capability of...
Who wrote this?
You're the co-publisher of DC, sir. The co-publisher of DC. Now, I am going to share just real quick before we get into this, because I want to be able to show, and I have the advantage because I'm the showrunner. Here is Amazo Prime. Okay, all right. So we get the correlation here, by the way. Drones, Amazon Prime. Oh, all right then. Let's go ahead and we'll stop.
Do you seriously think I'm that dense?
I'm just doing that for the listeners. Not you, sir. Not you, good judge. Not you at all. All right, so Amazo Prime has been unleashed, but Superman and the Kalian team up to take Amazo Prime down and send Mikos to jail. We end the issue with Top Cat finding a friendly planet to send the Kalian, and the unemployed Top Cat actually gets a chance to stay at the Hall of Justice. I am at your mercy, Judge Winfree. Let's just say... I had no idea what I was getting into until I started to piece things together with the whole kale / wholesome food / Amazo Prime. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, but you certainly would want to pick this up and read it, right? Right, Robert? I mean, come on.
Okay. I want you to understand something here, just very, very briefly. I don't hold you personally responsible for any of this.
Alien.
I hate Adam Sandler. I really do. As a person, as a comedian, the movies he has inflicted on the human race. But there is a very famous sequence of words from Billy Madison.
Oh no.
That strikes me as deeply appropriate to this situation. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone on this show is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Woohoo, I didn't come in last place.
Hey, yes. Now hold on now. I had some really tough material to work with. All right.
No one could have sold that.
Kalian. No. It was a being made of kale. Okay. Superman had a problem with him at first, and then they teamed up against fucking Jeff Bezos of the damn of Amazon Prime fame.
So wait a minute, Jesse. No Benny the Ball, no Choo Choo, no Fancy, no Hepcat Spook, and no the Brain.
Top Cat was around. I think apparently it was in a previous story to this because they reference it. Really, the setting that he's in when we first meet him, he's just working at a grocery store, and that's it. He's working.
That's not Top Cat.
That's
Top
not
Cat always
okay.
was blocked by his gang. That was part of the character. That was part of the storyline.
None of that's there.
No. Just whoever wrote this is terrible.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that are going to agree with you about Dan DiDio being terrible.
Anyone out there listening to this? This is indefensible. Just utterly indefensible.
Hey, Jesse, was there even a mention of Officer Dibble?
No. I mean, there was... Here,
he could have been his parole officer.
Nothing.
The cat just got out of the pokey, and now he's having to walk the straight and narrow. But then the aliens show up, and he doesn't know what to do anymore. And then Superman saves the day. I don't know.
He was working at a Wholesome Foods, and really the only character there at the Wholesome Food was a big bald guy. I didn't recognize the name. He was just working as an employee, as a stockman, pretty much. And when the manager used to get pissed at him because he would go and eat fat-free ham from the freaking deli when he wouldn't pay for it. And that was about it, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know much about Top Cat.
You should be. So should everyone involved in this.
This clearly was written with a storyline where they just tried to shoehorn a Hanna-Barbera character into it, because I'm not seeing anything about this that screams Top Cat.
This is
nothing.
All a shot at Amazon. Really. It really is. Listen, here, let me quote Mr. Mikos here. As somebody come to him with some concerns, he says, "None of this concerns me. I'm more than prepared to handle this Kalian," as his drones fly over. As a matter of fact, you could say none of this concerns me. I'm more prepared to handle this Kalian. As a matter of fact, you could say I'm primed.
And primed is written in bold.
So this is why I'm not the judge of this, because Jeffy would win.
So anyway, one of the cool things that happens in this is Top Cat.
It ended?
No, hold on. Top Cat has to go find Clark Kent. Walks into the Daily Planet, and he looks at Clark, and he's like, "What, are you kidding me? Glasses?" He already knows it's Superman right off the bat. So he's calling him out on his disguise, and Clark's like, "Whoa, wait a second, shh, keep it quiet." He's like, "Wait, now, this isn't exactly a good cover for you. It's just glasses." But that's about the brightest spot in this whole issue. There you go. Any questions, Robert Winfree? Can you go ahead and
none that you could answer?
Declare me the winner and get this over with.
No, you and Mark get to share last place, and shame on both of you.
All right, well, who's the winner then?
I'm going to go with Alexis on this one. I think it's just because as she's describing that story, I see a very zany, also like slightly over-the-top action comedy in the style of movies that really appeal to me on a personal level. Again, I get some Shaun of the Dead, I get some Zombieland, I get stuff like that from that description, and that's my bag, so...
Yay!
All right. Ronnie Adams, you get second. Congratulations.
It's all a flaming dumpster fire.
Take the win where you can get it.
There is no winners. There are no winners. I haven't cried in a long time.
Perfect.
Okay, and now your outro music is "Don't Cry Out Loud."
Oh, like it. All right. Well, first off,
Source material where we reduce grown men to tears.
It's happened on this podcast before.
More than once.
Well, Robert Winfree, once again, thank you very much for coming on here and judging this nonsense. We had a good time, though, for sure. And Alexis,
I didn't have to read any of this, so I'm okay.
Yeah, that was the big selling point. I thought if I could get him on, I just tell him he doesn't have to read it. He'll probably be more inclined to come on and listen. But yeah, Alexis, thank you again for coming on. Appreciate it there. And Mark Radulich, of course, the patriarch, and Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy podcast. Thank you once again. Let's go ahead. We'll get into plugs, and then we'll get our butts on out of here in this podcast. So let's
now remember today's date that this is broadcasting is July 29th, people, when we do our plugs. Okay.
Oh yeah, sure.
Time travel. All
right. So Ronnie Adams, we'll start with
forward.
Ronnie Adams, we'll start with you, sir. Do you have anything in the works? Are you still hanging out there, just kind of chilling? What's the plan?
I actually, we keep referencing me as from the Scream Boy podcast, which I am. We are in the midst of rebranding. We'll still be around, but as of right now, I'm focusing everything into our Twitch channel, which is now called Misfits and Miscreants. We are a Dungeons and Dragons live Twitch stream.
Oh.
What service do you use?
As far as the streaming service?
No. Are you Roll20, Fantasy Grounds?
We actually, I film it at a table.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I have two games. I actually host DM games at a local game shop called here in the Triad area, Burlington, North Carolina. Please check out Hypermind. It's a great shop. They have a lot of great things. Board games, tabletop, role-playing games, Magic the Gathering, everything that you could imagine. Also, I run a home game with another great group of people who are all new to the game. As of right now, the pre-stream for my home group is going to be Death House, which is a prequel to a book called Curse of Strahd, but we're going to move on from that to a module that just came out that I'm actually homebrewing a larger campaign around. It's a lot of fun. As soon as we start streaming, I'm going to put links up all over social media and all that stuff so people can join in. Also on the side, I've decided that if anybody wants a DM in the area locally, if they want to try it, they have birthday parties, you can get a hold of me through social media, different aspects, and I will come to you and DM a game for you and teach you how to play for a small fee, mainly just to support my habit, not to get rich off of it or anything, but it's small monetary fee, but gas money, materials, things like that. So I'm trying to kind of venture into that, mostly because I just want to expose more people to this. I think because of the resurgence of this game due to shows like Stranger Things, Critical Role, The Adventure Zone, all these great live play, people are more interested in it, and I found that more people are interested in it, but they don't really quite know how to get into it.
Very good. Well, Alexis, Hanna, come on, give us the details here. Honeysuckle Rose Creations. What do you got to plug?
Well, since this is airing on the 29th, if I've got my time travel, correct, starting tomorrow, we are going to be appearing at the Kansas City Nerdlesque Festival. This is the very first, as far as I know, Kansas City Geek Burlesque Festival. This is going on all week. Anyway, we're debuting our brand new ribbon chokers with Scrabble tiled pendants at this event. I've been working really hard on this. I've actually been trying to get the right ribbon color combinations, which is harder than you think. Let me put it this way, gentlemen, when I tell you Wonder Woman, what two colors immediately pop in the head? Just two colors.
Zack Snyder, brown and dark brown.
I can name off 3 or 4. I was going to go with gold and blue, but is it red and blue?
Yeah, see, exactly. It was very hard to sit there and go, okay, so does my Wonder Woman pendant have a red and gold choker, or does it have a blue and gold choker? It's actually quite difficult because you want to make sure you're getting the best color combinations. Color theory is not easy. But anyways, we're going to be at this event all week. I am really looking forward to it. We're going to have a blast. As always, you can find us on our online stores at Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. And of course, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Available on Amazo Prime.
Yeah.
I can't help it if I had to sell a little of my soul to Jeff Bezos because I needed to keep the lights on. No, seriously, Amazon. There is a part of Amazon you can search Handmade at Amazon. It's all people who have handmade their goods. It's all crafters. If you're gonna, guys, get back to the crafters. Get back to the artisans. We're the ones who are putting our hearts and souls into our work.
That's right. All right, Robert Winfree, hit us with what's going on there.
All right, as today is the 29th, yesterday I will be my review of UFC 240. I'm going to make a bold prediction. Again, we're recording this earlier. I'm going to say Max Holloway still UFC featherweight champion, and Frankie Edgar, once again, a beaten man.
I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction that what happened yesterday was that Frankie Edgar was taken out in an ambulance, driven by Stone Cold Steve Austin, who then beat him in the ambulance.
No beer hose?
No, it's a UFC event, and Stone Cold very clearly does not care for Modelo Especial. Wow, I burned the UFC sponsors. I am okay with that. MMA is sponsored by the dregs of businesses. Wimbledon sponsored by Rolex, things like that. Here it's
Monster energy drinks.
Yeah, Modelo, the official beer of the UFC, and I forget what the prep point is now because it was the Harley Davidson prep point, but I think it's something else at the moment. Anyway, so you can listen to my full review of that, and if Frank Edgar pulled it off, I will sound like a jackass right now, but wouldn't be the first time. That there will also be a full preview of UFC on ESPN Plus. UFC on ESPN 5. That is the Covington versus Lawler card. Also contains the first meeting of lightweight veterans Jim Miller and Clay Guida, who I'm shocked have never fought before. So you can find me there. You can find my reports on major UFC action in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. You can find me Tuesdays hosting Damn You Hollywood. Last week we reviewed The Lion King. Boy, what a shit show.
Walks to the shit show.
And this week is...
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Thank you for that. And looking forward to that one. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in here, I suppose, and putting up with our nonsense. I don't know why, but I am grateful.
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right, Mark Radulich. Ronnie's been anticipating you reading the schedule.
No.
All right, last week, Jesse and I spent 5 minutes talking about Cloak and Dagger, Shades of Grey, and 20 minutes doing a gag reel. It was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
That's all that show deserves. You did good.
As Robert Winfree mentioned, we did a review of The Lion King. Sigh. Fields of Verdun, Metal Hammer of Doom, Robert Winfree, Robert Cooper, Jesse Starcher, and I revealed the soundtrack to your favorite war, Sabaton, The Great War, Fields of Verdun. How many people do you want to die in this video? Yes. Jesse and I reviewed Cloak and Dagger Season 2. It's a weird fucking show, man. That was all for last week. This week, tomorrow, we've got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on Damn You Hollywood, L7, Scatter the Rats, and then myself and Sean Comer will be doing an on trial for Jackie Brown. The month of August, we've got Patsy Walker, a.k.a. Hellcat, Volume 1, Hooked on a Feline. Who's doing that one with us?
That's me, you,
Someone who wants to die.
Evan Bevins always has, number one, has the greatest name ever, but number two, he always has an affinity for those lighthearted types of comics, so it'll be fun. Evan's always bringing the knowledge and a fun guy to talk to.
All right, speaking of pussies, we're going to be reviewing Hobbs and Shaw on Damn You Hollywood.
I'm not sure how that correlates, but okay.
Yeah.
I ignore that now. But, when did it become a superhero franchise?
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah,
wherein they jump improbably a muscle car going about 40 miles an hour, 25 feet to land on a yacht, which then does not immediately sink.
Yeah.
August 7th.
And the psychedelic power of Ludacris's afro.
Third try. August 7th, we've got Volbeat, Rewind, Replay, Battleship Chains, whatever the hell they're calling it.
Gun in my mouth.
Sean Comer and I will be doing a TV party on August 8th for Orange is the New Black, the final season. And I twisted Pat's arm just enough for us to do coverage of Carl Frampton versus Emmanuel Dominguez on ESPN Plus, live coverage on Saturday, August 10th. Tune in for that. We've got source material, The Kitchen, on August 12th. Then we've got a Damn You Hollywood for The Kitchen, because I just love making Robert Winfree watch Melissa McCarthy movies.
I don't think I'm going to see that.
Yeah, you are.
I don't think I am.
You don't have a choice.
I most certainly do.
You're contractually obligated. Slipknot, We Are Not Your Kind, on August 14th. We'll have a TV party tonight for a SummerSlam on August 15th. Ooh. And then Sean and I are back for a special Friday TV party tonight for Glow Season 3.
Just skipped Season 2, huh?
And we did Season 2. We've been over this already. We've got the first iteration of the Alan Moore Book 1 Saga of the Swamp Thing on August 19th.
Big bunch of people on that one.
And we've got 87 people on that show. We've got a TV party for the one and only season of Swamp Thing on DC Universe on August 20th. Jesse Starcher and I will be reviewing Thy Art is Moira. It's Moira, Jesse.
Moira.
Human Target. And then myself and Sean Comer will be doing an on trial for the 1982 iteration of the Swamp Thing.
Bad.
Sorry.
Complete with a girl being stabbed in the boob, which is the best part of that movie.
This is the one where the dude gets his head crushed, right?
I don't know. All I remember is the boob being stabbed.
Yeah, I remember
that. Of course.
we had a big discussion about that. I don't remember if it really actually happened.
It happened. Yeah,
Did John Carpenter do that?
Maybe.
I want to say that it was, but I can't remember now. Crap. Anyway, go ahead.
There's a whole bit in that movie where he's clearly got hands and fingers, but it's so wildly uncoordinated that he can't actually hold like a glass beaker and then declares, "I can't do science anymore."
Perfect.
I can't do science.
Just announced right here in our shoe, Screaming Boy Podcast. Myself, Alexis Hanna, and yours and your friend and mine, Ronnie Adams, will be reviewing D23. Then we've got on source material DC Universe Last Sons to go along with our TV party for season 2 of Krypton.
Wes Craven did Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
and then we've got
I knew it was one of them.
Rage of Light Imploder on the Metal Hammer of Doom, August 28th. And then on a special afternoon iteration of TV Party tonight, myself and Alexis Hanna will be reviewing the Banana Splits movie brought to you by the Sci-Fi Channel.
Wow.
Because I am literally the only person in the entire universe that is actually excited for this.
No, I'm excited too.
Who?
And then finally, AEW All Out. I'm all the way out, Jesse. Will be on August 31st. Along with
They went from all the way in to all the way out in a hurry.
AEW, I'm all the way out. Zip.
In. No, I'm done. I'm out.
Do it in your Snagglepuss voice.
Oh God!
I'm all the way out. Even.
It's still too high pitched.
Good God.
That's
Anyway.
why. At this point, that's why it's funny. It's so bad that it has its own level of hilarity.
So AEW will be having their pay-per-view All Out on August 31st against at the NXT UK Takeover Cardiff. And then we will be doing back-to-back TV parties on September 1st. And guess what September is, people? It's Onslaught month, all month long on source material. All 4 volumes of Onslaught, and then Gotham by Gaslight.
That's terrible. Onslaught is the worst.
We are going to have a blast 4 straight weeks of Onslaught right here on source material.
It's a terrible character.
So tomorrow I'm taking my kids to go see like the 40th, 50th, 60th, I don't know how many years it is, anniversary of the Muppet movie, which is coming back to theaters for like a 2-day fandom event. I'm going to see if I'm going to see if I can get my kids to do a Darn You Hollywood review of the Muppet movie.
Darn You Hollywood. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw the old canned plugs in here at the end. Real quick, Chris Armstrong.
Don't cry out loud.
Chris Armstrong and I are going to be dropping, if it hasn't dropped already, we're going to be dropping our 0 issue of our new podcast called Unspoken Issues, our tie-in with the Unspoken Decade, that great 90s comics website / Facebook page that's out there. But yeah, our 0 issue, basically our origin story, is going to be dropping here pretty soon. Just keep an ear out for that if it hasn't already dropped. But yeah, go check out the unspokendecade.com, great 90s comic book fan site that's out there, hosted by one Dean Compton. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Ronnie Adams. That is Alexis Hanna. Mark Radulich is right over there. And the good judge, Robert Winfree. I'm Jesse Starcher. Have a good one. Bye-bye. That brings this episode of Source Material to a close. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to give that Radulich in Broadcasting Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts we have to offer. We are at home on Spreaker, but you can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and recently we have hit the air on Spotify. Find your favorite podcast platform and type in RADULICH to subscribe for some great content. If you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word. And as always, we appreciate any feedback and look forward to entertaining you again soon.
How do they speak for us?
Well, you hear the blues are calling, toss salad and scrambled eggs.
God damn! Now the song's stuck in my head.
Oh, sorry. Let me go fuck myself. You go ahead and talk.
You please.
She was a monkey's uncle.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna punch myself in the face.
I only watch Fat Albert because #black folks.
Oh my god.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And now we're demonetized on YouTube.
Why do I bother? quick. I googled grape ape, and you want to know what the first thing that comes up is? A marijuana strain named after it.
Give me a bag of that grape ape.
Would this be the 2012 or the 2004 grape ape, and from which part of Compton was it grown?
Other than the fact that my son thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen, which made my heart swell 3 times as big, but not just from the cancer. Really?
Oh, wow.
Ronnie, you know one thing that you missed? How dark it's gotten on this podcast. I guess. A Legal Beagle, did you have anything there, Alexis, on Legal Beagle, or did you already answer that?
Are you saying Legal Beagle?
Yeah, it's literally Beagle. It's Beagle twice.
How do you spell it?
7 times. Beagle. B-E-E-G-L freaking E. Mother freaking Beagle. Purple gorilla that sat on the roof. Logic is out the window.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously, Mark, all this talk about, Huckleberry Hound, how he's your dad's favorite character, and the fact that you sing on every single podcast, and we don't get a single drop of "Oh My Darling," you, sir, have failed.
You're not the first person to tell me that.
All while being a closeted homosexual dog. I don't know how he did it.
Is Ronnie still alive?
Ronnie?
No.
Jesus, who had to sacrifice a goat to get that out of there?
Goats are terrible.
I need all the information about nerd burlesque.
Mark is a very lonely man.
Muppet Babies.
Do a thing for you.
Also a really good show.
I cannot believe that was 2 hours.
Are you looking for something different in your life? A change for your future and just don't know where to begin? Let Florida Career College show you the way. Florida Career College has 10 campuses in Florida that offer hands-on career training in healthcare, business, trades, and more. And they'll teach you the skills you need for a new career, one that you can actually be proud of. Classes are starting now. Text FCC at 474747 to get started today. That's FCC at 474747.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn, ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn, tell people to stay off the lawn, compare it to your neighbor's lawn, and complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.